to not only document and do the research, but we call it uncloaking the Kochs. And I will ask you, a year ago, and I really want an honest answer. 1 year ago, how many of you in this room knew their name and knew what they did? That's not bad. That's not bad. What I will say that within 1 year of Lee breaking a lot of his work and certainly publishing the invitation from Charles Koch that he mails out to a number of, maybe 100 billionaires to invite you to, gated enclaves like Aspen, or this year in Rancho Mirage, the publication of that for the first time, I think really helped expose what we're looking at. When we talk about the Koch brothers, the thing to understand is that they are different. They're different than a lot of other corporations or a lot of other billionaires. And they're different for a couple of significant reasons.
Louder, please.
One, they are true believers. Okay, that's the important thing to understand. They are true believers in libertarianism. Okay? They were raised that way. They believe it. But what they did was then inherit an incredible amount of wealth. They have built on that wealth, and they have used a business model that vertically and horizontally integrates everything. They have applied that same model like an engineer to politics, and how to impact it. They were powerful before. Kurt referenced the Lewis Powell memo, which you should download and read. It is the blueprint, a 40-year blueprint. Arguably, the Koch brothers are the gas that makes that blueprint run. They have the financial power to change and reshape this world, to reshape our democracy. And we talk about astroturfing because we talk about it that it's not real, right? So think back to the derivative, which was grassroots organizing, right? Think about social movements in this country. They were all led by people. They were led, if we look back to the abolitionist movement, it was led by people. The suffragette movement, led by people, women in particular, but also people at large. You look at the civil rights movement of the 60s, and it was people that worked together, town by town, community by community, to change this world, to change this country, arguably for the better. 1970, corporations, Lewis Powell, look at that and say, that's a real threat to our overall power. And since then, it has been a very, very calculated effort. The Koch Industries, their annual profits are $100 billion a year. $100 billion every single year. They are the second largest privately held company, so there's not like you can work with shareholder accountability issues here. All right? They are essentially accountable to only themselves. Kurt rattled off a couple of names, and you've heard them, Cato, Heritage. But there's also a number of other names that you should familiarize yourself with. Because again, it's the vertical and horizontal integration. It's the reach of what you've seen called in the press the Kochtopus. Right? But it does include folks like the Reason Foundation. And we'll talk about them in a minute, especially since this is a meeting.
What?
The Reason Foundation? Reason Foundation? You'll see if you go back just a few years, David Koch is on their board. And it's tough sometimes to look at all the money, but if he's on their board, you can bet that they get a fair amount of funding. If you follow Reason down, you'll see their connection to big journalism and bigmedia.com, which then gets you to Breitbart and Company. And they've got a direct link there. You can also find them with Reason partnering with ALEC recently, right? The American Legislative Exchange Council. You heard Katrina reference them earlier. They read like a who's who of corporate backers to literally draft legislation, laws, that legislators in your state can go to a conference and, if you want to deregulate healthcare, they've got a bill for you. You want to roll back air quality protections in your state, they've got a bill for you. it's impressive, to say the least. The more we learn about this network, the more we talk about it, the more we raise awareness about it, the more effective that we are going to be. This year in California, and I remember sitting, Common Cause has done, we kind of stepped out a little bit this year. I remember, sitting in my office and reading some of the work that Lee had put together. Again, publishing, if you've not seen it, you should go to Think Progress. You should actually download the memo, the invitation to the Rancho Mirage event. Read it from cover to cover. It's absolutely fascinating. But as I was reading it, we looked at it, and on their own letterhead, Koch Industries, it says that, in the program section, which is like 10 or 11 pages in, it says that past retreats like Aspen, because they've been doing this for a number of years, not only they weren't not only attended, but they were featured. Prominent people like Justice Scalia and Thomas. Featured, not just attended, but featured. And as we started to kind of look back about the timeline on it, Common Cause started to become very concerned that that actually puts them somewhere around the deliberations of the Citizens United decision.
We can't hear you.
I will talk louder. Usually I don't have a problem talking loud. I'll talk even louder.
Thank you.
We became very concerned that given the fact that it appears on their own letterhead that they were featured at these types of events. And these are not just get-togethers. This is talking about how we are going to put money in, where we're going to put it, how we're going to do it, and how we are going to change the political landscape in the next election. So we became very concerned that their attendance at this type of a get-together was really concerning. And we thought that, really a federal justice, really normally shouldn't be at something like that. So we did something for us. We actually asked Erich and the DOJ to investigate it. We put that letter in October. Still haven't heard what they're going to do. But, call the DOJ, send them an email, ask them how it's going. But the American people, we feel, have a right to know. And in the course of this campaign, we also realized something else. The Code of Conduct, the Judicial Code of Conduct, ethics, does not apply to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay? So there is a bill in, I think it's Representative Murphy from Connecticut has put a bill in this year to fix that. So that's something that you should support. If you're from Connecticut, call Chris Murphy up, thank him. Or even if you're from any other state in the country, call them up, because they're looking for sponsors. So that's the other thing. Talk to your congresswoman, your congressman, ask them to sponsor Representative Murphy's bill. It'll at least extend it in the future. So I'm not going to take up a whole lot more time. I just want to say that, these guys, if you work on healthcare, you work on environment, you work on public health, you work on campaign finance reform, eventually you run into their influence from one of their front groups. And I think that's why in California you saw a coalition come together in January that was the Courage Campaign, right? That was Ask Me. Yeah? I mean, it was Common Cause. It was HCAM. It was Credo. That table came together within 2 months, and the reason was because of their influence, they impacted each one of our groups. So with that, we felt that we should do something. And I think that helped to, raise the awareness. Again, let's keep raising this awareness, and hopefully we'll talk about some other things that we can do. So I'm going to stop there. Okay? Thank you, Dad.